Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my book review / recommendations, as well as my current podcast playlist. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and take something away from it. And if you like it, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below. I have a few people that I follow who have posted videos like this before, and I was really inspired by them because a lot of the books that I'm going to talk about today are recommendations from people that I follow, or I just kind of picked them up from the bookstore. But I have been trying to be on Instagram, Facebook, and social media, and my phone just in general a lot less, and I normally like to do that by reading. I'm someone who's always really liked reading. I love a good book, but I have found myself having a harder time sort of concentrating and blocking out the desire to check my phone or to watch like TikToks, because like everybody knows TikToks are super addicting. But I made a conscious effort to read more, and I've been really enjoying it, and I found some pretty good books. I typically am a more fiction novel kind of girl. I love a good book that kind of lets me escape from reality, but I have recently gotten into a few autobiographies, memoirs, whatever you want to call them. So I'll talk about a few of those today. And I hope that you take something away from this, and I hope that you're inspired to read more. I know the world could use a lot more escape and a lot less social media. So anyway, I'll stop rambling on and let's go ahead and jump into my favorite books and podcasts. So the first book I want to talk about was sparked by Reese Witherspoon's book club. If you haven't heard of it before, I'll link it down below, but essentially it's just a book club that she created to share books from female authors, to kind of give them a platform and empower other women to support female authors. So the first book that I picked up from her book club is The Alice Network, and you can kind of see that they have like a little sticker on it. But I really like this book because it's really about spies, and I thought that was really fun. But I'm gonna read the like little short summary so you get a better understanding of what it is, because I'm sure I'll probably do a terrible job of doing it myself. Okay, so I'm gonna hit the high points because I don't want to read like the whole summary and give it away. But it's an historical novel. It's all about two women, a female spy recruited to the real-life Alice Network in France during World War I, and an unconventional American socialite searching for her cousin in 1947, brought together in a mesmerizing story of courage and redemption. So essentially it gives you two different storylines from two different time periods, and they have sort of collided in the present. And you learn a lot about the woman who was the spy in World War I and how that affects the character in the present 1947 time. And it's a really good book with a lot of like action, thriller, sort of like secrecy, and then there is like a little bit of love story in there, but it's not really the main driver for the story, which I thought was really great. And when I did further research on the book, I learned that the author definitely pulled a lot of her inspiration from actual facts and actual historical events, so I thought that was really cool. I know that she has done a lot more historical novels like this, so if you get your hands on this book, I really think that you would really enjoy it. My grandma, who loves to read too, she couldn't put it down. I think she finished it in a day. So it's a really good book and just a good, easy read. So highly recommend this one. All right, so the next book that I want to talk about is called The Last Mrs. Parrish, and it's by Liv Constantine. Again, it is from Reese's book club. I really like this one because it definitely swings a more jealous love story. So I'll go ahead and read the little synopsis, or like sort of trailer, book trailer. I don't know if that's what the word. It follows the characters Amber and Daphne, and Amber is kind of tired of being forgotten or sort of invisible, and she thinks that she deserves more, and she befriends Daphne, who is married to this like really wealthy, attractive man. And it kind of talks about how their friendship sort of turns sour, how that sort of intertwines with Daphne's marriage. And of course there's a twist at the end, so I really love that about the book because it kind of leaves you wanting more, and then as soon as you get to the end, it's something that you didn't expect. So I tend to look for that in a lot of those like romance novel books, because it has to have something other than just a love story. But anyway, I will link it down below, but it's definitely, again, an easy read. Another female author, so that's really cool. And yeah, I mean, not much to it. You read a book and you either like it or you don't, but The book was definitely easy to get into. I know that can be kind of discouraging for people, that if you don't like fall in love with it in the first couple of chapters and you can't really like get through it, but you kind of get hooked right away with a lot of these, so I think that's really, really good and it works for me. Alright, so the next book that I loved was Next Year in Havana by Chanel Clayton. And it follows the story of Marisol, who is Cuban American, and after her grandmother passes, her grandmother's dying wish was to have her ashes scattered back in Cuba. So Marisol travels to Cuba, and while she's there, she learns all kinds of family secrets that she didn't know about, and learning a lot more and connecting to her grandmother in a more personal way. So there's sort of a back in time flashback storyline that's happening, and a storyline that's present day with Marisol and, you know, her love interest in the book. So lots of twists and turns, lots of heartbreak, but lots of love and like passion, and it all kind of comes through the book. So it made me definitely want to go to Cuba. So hopefully one day in the future we can all travel to Cuba to experience their culture and to understand their people more and to just appreciate just everything about them. So the book definitely is a little bit of a vacation on the pages. So if you're looking to sort of escape and get away from what's going on in the world, I highly recommend this one. It's definitely a lot of economic clashing, you know, with having the really, really wealthy socialites, and it's sort of being contrasted with everyday sort of people in Cuba too. So it kind of shows both worlds, which I thought was really, really great. And overall, just a really good book. Like I said, a great escape, so highly recommend that one too. All right, so I think that wraps up all of my like fiction novels that I've really, really liked. And I've read definitely more books, but those are my top 3 favorite fiction novels. I have a few more in the pipeline that I want to read, but I don't know if they'll be good or not, so I'll let you guys know. If I end up reading like 10 more books, I'll do another video. So the first memoir I read, I was never really into memoirs before, I guess because I just never found anybody that interesting, which is bad. And I also kind of thought that their books were going to be just something that I already knew about them and it wouldn't dive in deeper. I was kind of proven wrong when I finally read Nikki and Brie Bella's book, Incomparable. And I really thought that this book was so great. I didn't put it down, I read it whenever I could. And I thought that there was great authenticity in this book. I learned a lot about them as individuals and as twins and as women, entrepreneurs and athletes. So there was a lot to unpack in this book, and I really applaud them for their transparency. You wouldn't have expected some of the things that they talked about in the book, and I thought it was really courageous for them to sort of spill their guts about everything. Definitely things that were not publicized on their show or on their Instagrams or anything like that, but I felt really inspired by them because they were really strong, independent women, and they always had a positive outlook on things. One thing in particular that I took away from it was when they had just started out in the WWE and sort of like the naggy, catty locker room drama that went along with what the WWE was like back then, and how just positive and focus and kind of like tunnel vision that they had to kind of be successful and to get the job done, and how they kind of left all of that negativity and sort of hurtfulness aside. I thought that was really, really inspiring because I feel that when we're all trying to climb to the top or trying to get to success, whatever that looks like, we tend to trample on people, or that's like the stereotype that women trample on each other. And I thought it was great for them to sort of break that mold and to say that, you know, you can just forget all of that nonsense, like don't listen to all that noise and just be a good person, rise above it, and work really, really hard. So that's kind of what I got out of the book. I thought it was really, really great, and I definitely look at them differently now that I have read this book. I don't see them as their reality show characters, even though I think that the reality show is pretty authentic and real, but even more so now, I just can feel their authenticity. So if you want to be inspired by 2 really badass women, I would highly recommend this book. So the next book that I wanted to talk about was a little bit more faith-based driven, and if I'm going to be totally honest, I'm on a journey that is slowly but surely finding my way back to faith, and I picked up the book Live by Sadie Robertson, and I thought it was super positive, and I just kind of took it for what it was and pulled out little nuggets. And I'm sure if you are reading it or you have read it, you know that it is really so beautifully written that it does feel tailored to each individual reader. So I was able to pull things from it that were really applicable to where my life was at when I read it, and I probably could do that again if I read it now. But I thought the emphasis on living in the moment and looking at life as such a gift, something that everybody could take benefit from. So I highly recommend this book. It was a pretty easy read, and yeah, I thought that her positivity and her essence and her happiness and her joy for others really came through on the pages. So highly recommend this one too. One other book that I am not done with, it is now currently my nighttime read, is Live and Love by Lauren Atkins. So she's much more than this, but the best way that I can explain it to all of you guys is that she is the wife of Thomas Rhett, the country singer. And I have always thought that she was such a positive light, and Sam and I, my boyfriend, are really huge fans of Thomas Rhett, and it was one of the songs, Die Happy Man, which I'm sure everybody has their own story to, played on our second date, and it was something that we look back on now and kind of giggle about it, because I was humming it and he was like, do you know this song? And I was like, duh. So he was like, I love him. It didn't happen exactly like that, but anyway, I found their story and their marriage and their family to be really inspiring. So it's been such a good read to learn more about her and how her faith has really carried her through her life, and just to see her be a testament to that, and to learn about her struggles and the adoption process that they went through with their daughter Willa, just the emphasis on family and their, all the love that they share, and how your community is so important. So I definitely feel really happy when I read this book. So if you're looking for something that is inspiring and can make you feel really good, and you want to read about somebody who is really honest and raw and real, like I'm only about three-quarters of the way into the book. And some of the things that she wrote, I was just so happy, and it was refreshing to see how honest and open she was, because she didn't ask for that sort of like celebrity famous life, but because it was kind of given to her. You would assume that they would not share everything because so much of their life is already public. So I was really thrilled to see how transparent she was, and I thought that was such a, again, I'm using the word inspiring, but I really just like have such respect for people who can write their books and sort of like lay it all out there. So highly recommend this one. If you were thinking of picking it up, definitely do so. I had tried to pre-order it when she first announced that she was going to be doing a book, and it was just so happened that I was in the bookstore the other week, and I saw it, and I was like, okay, I didn't know what book I was looking for, but I saw that one, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna grab you. And then I have another book, which is the last book that I'm gonna talk about, which is one that I have not read yet, but it is the one that I'm going to read next. All right, so the last book that I'm gonna talk about, I have not read yet, so I wanna preface with that, and it's pretty new. It is Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. So it is, again, another memoir, and I haven't read into exactly what he's going to touch on in this book, but I love Matthew McConaughey. Any movie that he's in, I'm a fan. I just think he is just, I don't know, he just seems so warm and, husky. I just love him. And I just love some of his motivational speeches that he's done. And yeah, so this is something I'm going to be really excited to read. I will get back with you guys in maybe another book review video once this one has been completed, but I think it's going to be pretty good. I've heard some good things about it so far. But when it comes to the books that I like I mentioned before, I'm either fiction or memoir at the moment. Some of the self-empowering books have been hard to read physically. However, this is a great segue into my favorite audiobooks. So one of my favorite audiobooks that I have listened to currently is Everything is Figureoutable by Marie Forleo. So she is a entrepreneur, motivational speaker, and I found her book when I was Googling sort of really good self-help or self-empowering books. I wanted to read it or listen to it as an audiobook and not as a physical book, because sometimes they kind of bore me. So I prefer my self-empowering books to be in an audiobook form, and I think it helps me keep concentration, and I tend to read them or listen to them only in the car, sort of like a podcast. And most of the time they're being read by either the actual author or a voice actor, so it's not boring. It doesn't feel like a robot's reading it to you, but she has a lot of really good nuggets in there. There are some things about this book that you would need, if you want to really do it 100%, you would need like a pen and paper, or you would need to see the physical book. So if you're somebody that likes audiobooks but needs to like see it as you're listening to it, this book would probably be the book to do that with. Lots of really good things that have spoken to me already. And it kind of just is important to hear from other people who have gone through similar situations, come out the other side successfully, and are trying to bring more people with them. So take what you want out of every book that I've read, especially like the memoirs and this audiobook and those self-empowering books, because there's always something to be found in them. And so I really like Everything is Figure Outable because of the message that we're stuck in a society nowadays where you think, if I didn't do this, then these things are impossible. Or if I didn't go to this school, or I didn't get this degree, then those jobs are out of my league. And that's just really not the case. So that's one way of looking at it. And another way that she sort of prefaced the book is with, when you're kind of feeling like you're down and out and there's nowhere to go, everything is figure outable. And just the overarching idea that anything in your life is figure outable. And to never give up. So I really like that about the book. So that's one book that I would highly recommend. I will leave a little screenshot of the book so you can kind of see what it looks like. And again, I'll link everything down below. But if you like audiobooks, that's a really good one. Last but certainly not least is my podcast playlist. I personally like to leave my podcast open for mainly faith-based content, probably because I haven't found any podcasts that I really enjoy listening to. So if you have any, please link them down below, comment them down below, because I find it hard to connect with people on podcasts if I don't know who you are. The first podcast that I want to talk about is As For Me and My House, and it is Milena and Jordan Ciciotti. She's a YouTuber, Christian-based YouTuber, and her husband do this podcast, and they talk about a lot of different topics. Some things controversial, some things not controversial. And I just find their podcast to be so interesting and transparent, and definitely because I like her content on YouTube that it makes me want to listen to her podcast, because it's just more content and more connection to somebody. But I really think that they dive in deeper to a lot of realistic, sort of everyday applicable conversations with faith sort of tied into it. So they have some great guests on. They have a really good time. They're pretty funny. So that's one that I really recommend. It's an easy listen. I always want to say an easy read, even though it's not a book, but it's like you can easily listen to it and get into it. But another podcast that I like, which isn't really a podcast, I guess, so really not sure where I'm going with this, is sermons. I like to listen to my sermons in the car because I just can't sit still to watch a sermon yet. I'm not there yet. But listening to them in the car is really helpful for me, especially because I do a lot of my best thinking in the car. So the podcast / sermon that I love to listen to the most, and it's definitely my most listened to podcast, is definitely from Transformation Church. I'm sure you guys have heard of them if you've ever seen the relationship goals sermon that went sort of viral a couple years ago. And Mike Todd, who is the main pastor there, he's just really funny. I think he reminds me of Will Smith, and he kind of makes things seem sort of present and modern and relevant to his audience, which I really liked, and his energy is just infectious. So if you are somebody who likes to get your sermons from podcasts, or if you want to listen to something in your car that is uplifting and motivational and definitely fulfills you in some way, I would highly recommend that one. Okay guys, so that are all of my book recommendations, audiobook recommendations, and podcast recommendations. So these are all things that I really enjoy listening to or have read, and I hope that you can take something away from this. I hope that these book sort of reviews, recommendations inspire you to read, to get off of your damn phone and learn something and be inspired by something. I can honestly tell you that my mood is so much better if I spend less time on my phone. My sleep is so much more effective. Like, I sleep so much better when I read at night and I put my phone down. So I'm sure some of you have your sort of like nighttime routines, but if you are stressed, you feel like your phone is becoming so addicted and you just want to live a less electronic driven life, then definitely check out books in general. You don't have to read these books, but any book. And I hope that you guys like this video. I will hopefully in the future do more book reviews as I start to read. I have a couple, like I said, in the pipeline ready to go. But anyway, I hope that you guys like this video. Please let me know your favorite book recommendations, podcasts, audiobooks, whatever. I feel like it would be fun for all the people that are watching this video to sort of share their insight and recommendations with other people. So until next time, I will talk to you guys later, and thanks again for watching.